Intro. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Hey everybody, and welcome to Brotherhood Without Manners, a full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. I am Zach, and with me, as always, is my Viserys, Nate.
What up?
So today, we're going to be diving more into a Game of Thrones for you guys. But after doing, what was it, like 5 minutes of Googling, you disproved your own theory?
Yeah, no, I just grabbed the books and looked up what I needed. And...
What was it? The fact that Garrett's missing fingers and Cold Hands is fucking Cold Hands?
Yeah, Garrett's fingers. I don't think Cold Hands would regrow his fingers if he was Garrett, so there's no, you know, I would assume that somebody, Sam or Gillyweed there, or whatever her name is.
That's Eamon's nickname. Her name is fucking Gilly, not Gillyweed.
Whatever, you know. They probably would have mentioned Cold Hands missing some fingers if he had been missing some fingers, and they did not. So
true that. Well, you were so hype about it for like a day and a half, and that got shot the fuck down.
Oh well. Speaking
of fleeting happiness, we dive today into Daenerys 1, which is a whole helping pile of fuck, holy shit.
Yeah, there's so much shit that happens.
It's I want to call it an exposition dump, but I feel like that just does a disservice because it's done so well.
Yeah, it's really good.
So we're immediately thrust across the Narrow Sea. We're no longer on the continent of Westeros that we've come to know and love over the previous 3 chapters that we've read. And yeah, we're presented with a young girl who's being presented a gown of some sort. It's very violently, and to me, immediately it came off as sexually. He's presenting this gown to her, the way, you know, touch it, caress the fabric, like, it's creepy.
Already we're getting this immediate look into this character and how fucking weird he is.
It's so creepy. Just presenting the gown for her, it's just, he comes off like a fucking creep ball.
Yeah, he's a cretin.
So that ends up, as we slowly learn, this is Daenerys Targaryen and her brother Viserys. Viserys is the one presenting her the gown. They are in Pentos currently. I believe Pentos.
They're in Pentos, yeah.
They're in Pentos.
I didn't even write that down.
Yeah, it's so fucking hard to keep track of Dany. But Viserys, as he's presenting the gown, he says it's a gift from the Magister Illyrio. And that's the first
Illyrio.
We hear of Illyrio, who may or may not be detrimental to all
already
things.
Before he even shows up, we've already got her explaining to us how quickly her brother is to anger, how fast he can wake the dragon. And we already get that referenced early on.
Yeah, she mentions that he's in a high mood, and that immediately, you know, she's conscientious of his mood. She pays attention to his mood. Yeah. So he's in a high mood today. That things look good. She also, it's very quickly stated that she has violet eyes. The gown, the purple of the gown will bring out the violet of her eyes, which, as we'll learn, is a very important Targaryen trait. Along with their silver hair, they have very intense colored eyes. So they're talking, and Dany's having more of an internal kind of thing, but she's thinking about how they've been here, where they are now in Pentos at Illyrio's manse, for nigh on half a year. So they've been chilling here roughly about 6 months. Dany is said to be 13, which is
super young.
Super young.
A year younger than Rob and Jon are. That we just
way younger than presented in the show. Yeah. Which, as if you've seen the show and you know what Dany's story kind of covers, it's putting it into the perspective of a 13-year-old is pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's harsh.
And we just get all this within like the first page of her chapter, and it's just boom, here's these traits of Targaryens. Boom, here's her creepy older brother. they're currently staying with this.
And we're learning about
benefactor.
I think it's funny how they constantly are referencing the start of Viserys' reign, the beginning of his reign, and just like how blatant it is that he's not going to have a reign. That like that's just he's such a joke. Which they go more into here at the end of the chapter.
Yeah,
as well,
Viserys is I want to pity him in the weirdest way because a little bit later in the chapter, Dany goes into what they experienced when Robert took the throne, and it is harrowing when you think about the fact that he was so young. But he's just such a fucking prick.
He's a cunt about it.
He's such
a
creepy
fucker. He's terrible. They even mentioned like that he looks feverish and he's got nervous hands. Like he's always almost sickly. Like where he's just a fucking god.
He's that weird kid that just hits bugs and kills bugs and shit, and you don't want anything to do with him because he's creepy. He's just creepy.
He's a creepy.
He's fucking creepy. She's kind of thinking on where they're staying on Illyrio's manse, and she describes Illyrio as a dealer in spices, gemstones, dragon bone, and other less savory things. Unsavory like young Griff? Unsavory?
Super unsavory.
I'm a big believer that Illyrio's got some shit going, and always has. But I think it's interesting that Viserys is so desperate and willing to accept whatever he can get that he unrightly so believes is owed to him anyway. But Dany is a little more skeptical. Like she pays attention to the less unsavory things. That kind of raises a flag for her. And again, it's all rapid fire.
That actually brings me to because right after that, when they decide that she's gonna go get cleaned up, she needs to go to the bath and shit. And so she gets a moment to chill in the window and just reminisce there. And she starts thinking about a lot of stuff, and it makes me think of it, even before anything starts, how similar she is to Rhaegar. Because she's sitting there listening to the city and the people outside, and it just, like you were saying, like, there's always... She's so aware. She listens and hears things because she's paying attention, whereas Viserys... He just expects what he expects, and that's that. And so he doesn't give a shit what anybody else has to say or do or think.
Yeah, he's a fucking child. I actually, Dany, even when she's kind of thinking on Illyrio and the way her and her brother both view him, she kind of realizes that Illyrio is going to give him what he wants and what he needs, and it says Dany listened and she heard these things, but she wouldn't question anything when her brother wove his web of dreams, is the exact quote. And so, like, even that, like, she's just not, like, anything he's promising, it's just, in the back of her head, she's like, you're full of shit. You've got nothing to deliver on. And the whole web of dreams just makes me think of, like, a creepy little fucking spider. Like, he thinks he's this great manipulator, game player, intimidating, but he's just not. He's just a little fucking bug.
He's just a minuscule,
and he needs to be squashed. But as her dipshit brother's getting ready to leave, he tells her that Illyrio will send the slaves to bathe you.
Even though there's not any slaves
and even though there's
Pentos.
Not supposed to be any slaves in Pentos. And so in Dany's first chapter, we've got her being introduced to slavery and the concept of slavery, which, as we know, is a huge theme for her.
And she even vocalizes, in her mind, how she feels in a way where she says, there's not supposed to be slaves here.
Yeah, she already has some thoughts on it, yeah. And then he goes on to say to wash the stink of the stables off of you, which I've never picked up on. But
did they just get there?
Well, I don't know if that, but Dany's clearly been riding, and Dany really likes to ride. When Khal Drogo gives her the mount, and she always attributes riding on I'm assuming this horse that she was just riding, the one Drogo gives her, and then eventually her dragon. She associates it with freedom. And so it's this, she went to the stables because she's trapped in Pentos with her brother. It's this recurring, she was already at the fucking stables in chapter 1 trying to...
You don't think maybe it has something to do with them forcing her to ride the horses to learn for Drogo.
Maybe it could have something to do with Drogo,
but that she really does enjoy it.
I think that with the present that she gets from Drogo for her wedding,
and how taken aback she is,
and how much she enjoys riding it and feels free. She loves just gallivanting off from the guy. So I think that's absolutely just meant to be a big part of her character. That riding symbolizes freedom for her, and freedom is with slavery, with all of it. Dany wants freedom, so it's just I keep saying Martin started this theme so fucking early that she's already thinking of freedom, thinking of slavery, all this.
Yeah, so then she goes into the window and starts daydreaming, and you get a lot here as well because she just starts. So this is the red. You hear the red priests are introduced here outside the wall. Yeah. So I
just said the red priests are lighting the files.
Well, if they've got some hidden shit, man, they don't want.
No, it's just those red press-on nails, girl. I tell you what Rolor said.
So, do you think on top of all that anything it has to do with the actual wall? And symbolizing the two sides.
I didn't.
Or do you think it's more just because, like I said, I really enjoyed that she's up there and it so mirrors Rhaegar and how he listened to the people and would just sit there. And...
I don't think that it was. I didn't see it as a direct correlation to the wall or a symbol of the wall. To me, it was more. The Red Priest. So this is an established priesthood. So, it's more world building that this play in Pentos,
which actually appears again.
Yeah, they're super important Red Priests. We learn a lot about them, but again, it's just that initial introduction of across the sea. So
then,
Pentos.
Then she starts daydreaming about Westeros, and there's this big old the grass is greener, where she's like, it's this better place with open fields and plains that she can, ride her horses on or whatever. And, I feel like she, it's just so funny how directly contrasted it is once we're in the point of view of people that are over in Westeros and what it's actually like right there.
Well, I mean, it's also what she's grown up being told.
True.
That Westeros is the shit and it's ours, rightfully. So she starts to go into what happened when Robert took the throne that night.
Yes, yeah.
And... she doesn't remember that night. Viserys does, which I think is key to his character in the way he obviously. And it says that he was 8. So that's a fucking horrible age.
Well,
to
if
have.
you think about Bran's younger than that.
He is, but I mean it's still a very influential age.
So that's what I mean is it's a really young age.
Yeah, Bran
he's 8 years old, but he's old enough to understand a bit and comprehend that this is fucked.
So they had to flee their home in the dead of night. Right before Robert's, and they call him the usurper. That's all Dany refers to him as is the usurper, which I love because usurper is such an underused word. So they had to flee their home in the dead of night. They left King's Landing and they took a ship to Dragonstone.
And that's where Dany was actually born.
And that's where she was born during an absolutely
raging summer storm.
Brutal summer storm, yeah. And
which obviously goes to play into the Boromir Salt and Smart.
Yeah, the prince who was promised, or princess. But yeah, and then from Dragonstone, they ended up going.
So in Dragonstone, they got Sir Willem Darry broke into the nursery.
Right as Stannis was about to show up and kicking some fucking teeth.
And he took and cleared the nursery, and there was some. So I really thought it was cool. They said there were 4 loyal servants with him, and that helped to get everything, and they broke her out and brought her over to Bravo.
I thought it was interesting that Garrison was about to sell them to Robert. There was some people on Dragonstone who weren't, and that's, I just think, significant because Dragonstone is the seat of Targaryen power.
I also thought it was really interesting on how much that whole scenario mirrors a certain favorite Onion Knight breaking a little Edric Storm out of a Dragonstone. And how both are breaking out of Dragonstone, freeing somebody, some child, releasing them across the sea. It's so mirrors the exact same situation
at the same place. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, Willem Darry got them out to safety and got them to the Bravosian coast, and
To Dany's first real home?
That she considers home.
Right.
Before we touch on that, when she was reflecting on, the war and what was going on with Robert, she was thinking about all the battles that were happening, the sack of King's Landing. She starts talking about her brother Rhaegar, and she says, her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident and dying for the woman he loved.
Yeah.
Dying for the woman he loved. Is that Lyanna?
Well, yeah.
So.
Not that she necessarily knows, but she could probably think of it more as Illyrio
Martell. Well,
right.
but that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Illyrio Martell would not be the reason he was fighting on the, I don't know why this is blowing my fucking mind, but...
How does she know?
How would she, because Rhaegar, the whole thought of Rhaegar's rebellion was that he kidnapped and raped her, not that he was in love with her. So, the fact that Viserys played it, clear, because she's reiterating basically what her
almost
brother
like
has
her
told
brother
her,
had told little brother
that he was in love with.
And
I think that we get a glimpse of, fighting and dying in the bloody waters for the woman he loved. That's not just he went out and raped her. That's he's fighting and dying for the woman he loved. I that just jumped out.
That's
to me.
Right there in black and white, right there.
I'm wondering if there wasn't a little, hey, little 7-year-old brother Viserys,
This is the woman I'm in love with.
Yeah, this is the one. You're my little brother. No one's gonna take you seriously. I shared a moment with you. That really stuck out to me.
That's pretty dope.
Rhaegar. So they get to the Braavosi coast, and they get to the house with the big red door and the lemon tree outside her window. Unfortunately, Sir Willem dies of sickness.
He's just which he took good care of her.
Yeah, he set him up and got him out of there, and then they made sure. I mean, he didn't really want for anything when he died, so there was a nice kind of even trade. She specifically ruminates on the fact that they had to sell their mother's crown.
Yes.
The last kind of tie they actually had to Westeros, which I think is significant.
And this is also where we get the nickname for Viserys.
The Beggar King.
The Beggar King.
I love it.
And it's so suiting.
For him,
perfect.
especially.
It's exactly what's necessary.
Crownful King. He is the Beggar King. That's just, it's perfect for him. I mean, unless you want to be titled the slimy little shit. But it's so funny
that she's picked up on it so easily. Doesn't disagree with it.
That was something big that jumped out for me. Is I kept thinking of Jon, how perceptive Jon is.
Yeah.
And Dany is just as perceptive.
Yeah.
She's just, and unfortunately, in this world, in this environment, she's a woman. And she's
a 13-year-old
girl who is born into an extremely high family where literally just 15, 14, 13 years ago, their father was overthrown and as the king. And so she's super perceptive, but she doesn't, no one will validate her opinions. What she has to say doesn't matter, right. Especially with a tool like fucking Viserys. So I just feel like even from this chapter, from book 1, you can tell that he is not what's important in this chapter. I mean, let alone that it's named Daenerys, it's from, right. But he is not.
You can see that he's not going to be a major player compared to what she's capable of.
He's not the dragon that he claims to be.
Right.
And so he's promising her this and that, and she knows not to believe him. But
so then the slaves come in.
The slaves get there, and they draw her bath for her. Well, they don't draw it, but they bring it up from...
And
which fucking sucks. Jesus Christ, lugging buckets of water up in it. Fuck this lady.
Fuck that. So now the water is scalding hot, and this is probably very often picked up because it's just so
absolutely. It's super important to her character.
She doesn't flinch or cry out. It doesn't bother her. Not even a little bit. No, she feels like it makes her clean.
She says she likes the heat. And she remembers Viserys telling her that the fire is in our blood. And everyone, I'm sure, has picked up on that. Even in a first reread, that tends to stand out. It's just, again, it's so symbolic to the Targaryens and having the blood of the dragon and their tolerance with heat, which, as we know, is super important come the end of this book for her. And later on, but it's super important at the end of this book. So like the traditional Targaryen, she's got her long silver pale hair, which is being brushed out. I thought it was interesting that she's thinking about, what she's getting prepared for, going to meet Khal Drogo and how she's getting married to him. And she says she's thinking to herself, she always assumed she would just marry Viserys. Right. Because that's the way Targaryens have done it, and that's the way it's done, which, holy fucking shit. Like, if she married Viserys, just...
how terrible.
How awful that would have gone. That just is always a strange what if. It makes me do a double take.
Yeah, it's weird.
But, we get the first mention of the king's blood here, the golden blood, the blood of old Illyrio, the blood of the dragon. So they help her dress, and, goddamn.
She's going on and on about Khal Drogo, one of the little slaves there.
How lucky Dany is, and how he's...
And so, she's really pumping up his power, how much reign he has as a ruler.
Drogo's a boss, yo.
He's a boss.
So this gown, holy goddamn shit. So they're helping her dress, and it's a plum silk gown to help bring out the violet in her eyes. She's got gilded sandals. They put a tiara in her hair.
So, about her hair, when the girl was brushing it, they say that it shone like molten silver.
Mm.
Do you think that's in contrast to him wearing a golden crown?
Ooh. It is now. I think you just made a fact.
I just made a fact.
So, they do the tiara, which... Yeah, crown of molten gold. Yeah, I like that. She's got golden bracelets crusted. Cubby custard. She's got golden bracelets crusted with amethyst.
Was that a Teletubbies reference?
And absolutely
Fuck
was.
You.
And she's got a collar, a heavy golden torque emblazoned with Valyrian glyphs.
Which... Do you think that's some sort of relic or just an ancient... It just doesn't...
I mean, it probably fucking says all men must die. I don't think it has any power or any magic. I think it's just symbolic. Girl is looking fucking...
And then she goes...
hot.
Strolling out to greet her brother, the fucking...
Well, as she dons this collar, this torque, with all the Valyrian glyphs, she very quickly thinks how... The slave woman was telling her that Khal Drogo's slaves wear collars of gold, and
she's looking like
she
a slave.
Immediately feels like a slave. She's collared in, and so Illyrio, Dany, and Viserys, they all meet up.
So it's funny that they're all dressing her. Earlier on in the chapter, they were talking about her looking like, or Illyrio was saying she looks like a princess and stuff, and she was like, I don't even remember how to be a princess. I don't know what that means at this point. So they're all building in her idea what they think she's supposed to look like as a princess. And then Drogo is going to come in and just fucking... She's going to, over the course of the next fucking 5 books, start seeing who she thinks a queen is supposed to be.
So they all meet up in the entry hall of Illyrio's thing. Illyrio is dressed just as elegantly. He's a big old chubbo. But he moves surprisingly delicate for such a massive man, which immediately made me think of his counterpart, our friend Varys the Spider.
Who also is a delicate...
Who also moves very delicately.
Do you think he was a mummer at some point?
I think he learned the craft. I don't know if he necessarily... Did the mummer shows as far as Varys was.
So he greets her with, "May the Lord of Light shower you with yada yada," but he follows the red priest.
He says the red priest greetings.
I mean...
Appearances, I believe. Especially with the mention of the red priest lighting the...
Just because they're so
I think they're the predominant... Yeah, I think that's all that is. I would believe, I don't know, maybe Illyrio is super pious. But he shows up, and it's interesting that he says that, because he shows up in loose garments of flame-colored silk.
Yeah, so maybe he does.
So maybe he could
because he greets her with "May the Lord of Light," and he's using their... But it may, again, like you said, be for appearances. Who knows? You could probably get a little more information from the Red Priests if you follow their faith.
Maybe. So they're chit-chatting, and Viserys is showing his ignorance by, saying the Dothraki are savages, and Dany looks terrible, and Illyrio actually manages to offend him, and then very quickly just...
So even before all that, when he's, bitching... I just thought it was hilarious because he maybe it was after that, actually, so go ahead with that. Because I was basically just saying how Illyrio says that Dany is a vision. And he says that repeatedly, like, more than one time. He's like, to Viserys, he's like, Your Grace, she's a vision. A vision. And it's like, is he, like, is that what you're saying? Like, that this is what she will become, that she is a vision? But yeah, he gets Viserys riled up, and I thought it was funny because it says that he puts his hand on the sword, the hilt of the sword that Illyrio lent him. And it's like that, like, she already stapled in the beggar prince, and now he's sitting here getting riled up, and he's gonna, and she is aware that that's not even that's not your sword. That ain't your shit.
So yeah, Illyrio skirts Viserys and just kind of blows him off, claps his hands, summons the Pelican.
So easily.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever. And so they're on their way to meet Drogo. And on the way, Viserys is sitting there already plotting how much. I don't need all of his army, only 2/3, and blah blah blah. And he's just again in that web of dreams that he likes to these pipe dreams that he has no fucking idea what to do with an army. He may have been schooled, but he was only 8, so he didn't get that much schooling.
Right.
In as a prince would, even though they do. They are trained extensively in military and all that stuff. Yeah. He was only 8, so he didn't get as much as he could. And Dany even says right then in the Pelican, like, she knows he's never used that sword. Yeah, so he, like, again, with him grabbing the hilt, like, what are you going to do? And Viserys just constantly turns to Illyrio for confirmation. Everything is, is that right? Is that... And Dany picks up on this, and she picks up that Illyrio is telling Viserys exactly what he needs to hear.
And that's
and it says in the book, Dany mistrusted Illyrio's sweet words. And it shows me the perceptiveness of her. She's like Jon. She's picking up on players of the game. And Illyrio, as far as I believe, is one of the best players that there is.
Yeah, as far as we know. Look at the things he's pulled off.
Yeah, exactly. And will pull off, and I think, even in Winds of Winter is still pulling off. And so, yeah, the fact that Dany's picking up on this, and she doesn't trust him, she's skeptical of him and just who he is, how nice he's being to them, why he's taking them in, the gifts he's giving them, she's not buying any of it.
And it's all, that's it, like... What do you think? Do you think he's, Illyrio's got some young Griff action going on?
I 1,000%
So,
do.
why do you think he's marrying her off to Drogo?
I think the Targaryen... Well, he's marrying her off. I think he's marrying... Her brother's a fucking idiot, and he sees that. He knows that, and he's playing him. So I think either Viserys is going to end up dead, and I think that's what he's anticipating with Khal Drogo. And I think so. He's expecting Viserys to be dead, or, he's the beggar king who's really going to believe him. And then with marrying Dany to Drogo, I think it's, let's give her to this crazy Khalasar leader of the Dothraki, and we'll never have to worry about her again, because the Dothraki fear the Great Salty. And then Griff comes in, and Griff is the one Targaryen left who is important and wanted. I don't think that Dany is really a factor. She's beautiful and she's got the name in the bloodline. But let's give her to Drogo. And then they kind of go into that where Dany mentions that Pentos gave Drogo a manse.
Yeah.
As a way of keeping the peace, so he wouldn't sack Pentos. He got this whole fucking manor, which as they're going in, she noticed it's unsullied guarding the gates.
I didn't even see that.
Which again, she will end up employing and freeing thousands of Unsullied, and we get a couple of them right in her first chapter.
I didn't even notice them. I didn't even fucking...
So they arrive at the manse.
And in here, because Viserys the whole time has been talking about how he's convinced and paranoid that there's been multiple attempts on their life. That Bobby B's sending over assassins and trying to kill them. And I don't think he actually has at this point. I think that it's all in this fucking little tool's head that they haven't had the actual attempts in the way that he's making it out to be.
That's a hard one, because we know in the future that Bobby B will indeed put a hit out. Right. But I think you might be right. I think it's just they've had to keep moving because they've dried up any means of gratuity they had there, so they had to keep. So he kept inventing this. We need to keep moving because there's these swords at our back, but really it was just out of necessity.
And again, so now he also only refers to Bobby B as the usurper.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
he's
so
such an angry little shit.
He's driving that hatred towards them into her, like with they're awful, evil people. I mean, granted, they're it's 100%
one of those indoctrinating the youth of, she just, as they were on the run and fearful, she believed, for their lives from these hired assassins, it's the usurper doing this to us. Him, and I thought it was interesting, he refers to the usurper's dogs of Lannister, Tywin Lannister, and Ned Stark.
Yeah.
That's how Dany comes to know them. People that, I mean, we haven't met Tywin yet, but we know Ned Stark at least is a decent guy. So
it's also funny though that they're putting Tywin and Ned together
in the same,
even though like they are so,
especially in that one instance,
especially
what happened. Tywin's hesitancy
coming in so late, and Ned's, he does not forgive that.
Oh, absolutely not. No. And so it's at this point when they're walking into the party, a bunch of people are there, it's chill.
So did you notice when they entered the courtyard what it said about the trees that they were passing? Because the moonlight painted the leaves shades of bone and silver. And like I just feel like the trees are there's always trees fucking saying shit, especially in the north. And so when you hear about Bravos having some trees, like, they're different. They're brought in Pentos,
Yeah, no, Pentos. Yeah,
they were in Bravos.
Yeah, they were in Muir and fucking everywhere.
They were everywhere, yeah. But I thought that was cool.
This is when she spots Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, so Illyrio's announcing who some of these people are to them, saying who this person is, and he finally gets to search Jorah Mormont, and they're taken by surprise because they're like, a knight.
This is where I get fucking salty. Because I hate Book Jorah, and I love Show Jorah, and Book Jorah just creeps me out.
He's a creepy dude in the book.
And I want to love him, because fucking Show Jorah is just so delightful. But, so Drogo arrives, and he is impressive as fuck.
Did you catch what Viserys called him? The Aegon, the Dragon Lord, come again. And, like, I just thought that was, like, of all people to be talking about this horse lord, Viserys is comparing him to
Yeah. Like, I think that 100% is just getting wrapped up in the splendor of, like, shit, like, this dude is cool. And then he immediately is like, oh, no, I'm Viserys. I gotta be a fucking bitch. And, that's when Viserys leans over to his sister and is like, yo, you wanna hear something fucking dope? The Dothraki, you see his long-ass braid? Like,
right,
they don't cut that shit unless they lose a fight. That's why his is so motherfucking long. And like, that's sweet. The Dothraki are just fucking cool as a people, which obviously we'll get into more as Dany heads off. But Viserys goes immediately back to just being a stupid cunt, and he just
because Drogo's being brought over at this point, like,
and Dany's petrified.
She's tweaking out. She's like getting cold.
I mean, rightfully so. She's
13,
and she's about to be wed to this terrifying warlord.
And this is when we finally, right at the very end, see Viserys' fucking true nature.
The depth of his scum.
And he says that he would allow all 30,000 of the Khalizar to fuck her if it meant he got his
and their horses.
And their horses.
Like, you're just a fucking
douchebag,
dude. Like,
fuck.
This girl is terrified right now. Terrified for her life, for her future, for fucking everything. And you just are the scummiest of fucking scum. And I hate him. And I can't wait till he gets his fucking crown. And it's amazing. And the chapter ends there, where she hasn't met Drogo yet, but she's fucking terrified and
worried as fuck,
expecting that she's gonna be married off and dragged off with this dude, and her brother's a huge douche, and that's all she has really in the world, and she just thinks about the big red door.
So what do you think of Dany's first chapter?
Holy fucking shit. There's so much. I mean, references to Rhaegar, Robert's Rebellion, fucking,
Just
the Red Priests, and then just the expansion of the world and the mention of where they've jumped around. It got
so even when she was reminiscing at the window, she was name dropping Westeros.
So I've been meaning to ask this but like as a whole, do you like Dany chapters?
I mean, it really depends, like, because they can get pretty dry.
I know a lot of people don't, and I could see why.
I love the world building, because there's always a lot of her chapters are very similar. A lot of exposition, there's
so much.
But
going
that's
on
why they're
her
so
always.
Good. Is that there's
I'm not in love with her character. Dany, I think is great, but there's times where she annoys the ever living dog shit out of me.
And I think she makes up for it by having herself planted around the interesting characters.
That's it.
I mean, extra cool
especially.
Stuff.
In future books, we get some really interesting characters around her. You just get such a good array of, Dany is this sweet, innocent child at this point, and we really want to root for her. She's got this terrible fuck of a brother that just, and she's at the mercy currently of a puppeteer, a puppet master, and now a savage has been described to her, Horse Lord. And so it's just, clearly we're meant to root for her, but
we want to see.
The growth alone in this book, by the end of this book, it's interesting to see where she goes. And
I'm looking forward to taking
it's good. It's
again.
Good stuff.
So this week's inductee, you got anybody?
Oh, I do. I kind of have two, because they're not named.
Well, shit. Look at you taking the fucking
when they
initiative.
arrive at the manse and Dany and Viserys, they get out of the palanquin. Dany says, it took 2 strong men to get Illyrio on his feet. And so I am honorarily inducting those 2 strong men because they work their ass off to get that fat fuck up out of his palanquin. So those are my honorary inductees.
So I've just got the 1. I suppose I could bump it to 5, but we'll keep it at the 1, and it's going to be Sir Willem Derry for pulling off the heist of the century years before Sir Davos Seaworth sneaks out of the same location, probably using the same tunnels. So, welcome this week. So, got anything else? Is that... Otherwise, we could probably wrap it up.
I've got a ton more, but we're getting into dance shit then.
Yeah. So as always, hit us up, give us a like, review, follow on everywhere.
Induct someone,
iTunes,
and
Spotify.
Next we're going to be reading Ned 1. So induct someone for Ned, and we will shout you out on the episode.
Give us anything. iTunes, Spotify, Google. All them places.
All the fun stuff.
We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast, Twitter, @MannersWithout, our Instagram, @Brotherhood Without. Are you doing anything on the Instagram?
That's the one I totally neglect the most.
I do. I don't know how Instagram works.
I don't even know how Instagram works. I try to upload a picture of fucking Podrick Payne. It's you want to put a filter on this? And it's no, look at Pod. Does he ask those fucking prostitutes if he needs a filter?
He could use a filter. We can also be reached at our Gmail, Without Manners Brotherhood @gmail.com. So let us know what you guys think.
Give me someone to talk to other than my own Viserys here.
Hey, that's cold.
He's currently pinching my nipple.
He likes it. Don't let him fool you.
Only mildly. So, alrighty guys, we'll check you on Ned 1 next Thursday, next week. Thursday. I almost just said next Saturday for some
Why would we do it on Saturday?
I don't know.
You're out of control.
Well, now it's Saturday.
Well, Harris.
Peace.